There are a lot of angry threads on Reddit, but the one that stood out to me the most yesterday was one about Juggernauts, or mostly how Mordekaiser got utterly shafted. This topic has been brewing for a while, and I've definitely spoken about it in my streams, and it's honestly getting to the point where you can call Riot's balancing decisions as desperate. I am not aware if there are any other existing words for it, but I call this bandaging. This means where you give something a temporary quality or fix to allow it to function while ignoring the real issues. Some of the bandages seem well constructed on the champion and aren't fully all that terrible to have, while others are just flat out stupid. Mordekaiser is not the most recent example of bandaging, but he's definitely one of the most stupid. Riot wanted to make a melee dual laner work and thus tried to shape him to work out in bottom lane by force. This went by so terribly as he dominated the meta for a while and then got so many nerfs that he's basically unusable now. The idea of having a melee bottom lane is interesting, but it just doesn't really work. They achieved it on Mordekaiser though by giving him bullshit like free experience, sustain up the ass, and giving him a pet dragon just for shits and giggles. I have to emphasize that. Riot really wanted Mordekaiser to work out in bottom lane, so they decided to just say fuck it and give him a disgusting advantage other champions could not have in order to make it function. It's such a regrettable decision as they basically made old Mordekaiser non-existent, and now they have to constantly nerf him to the point where he doesn't even work in bottom lane and he can't function in the solo lane either. Bandages on a champion are basically cheating, as it's giving a champion flat out free power, and the worst cases are purely random. The big problem that bandages seem to always want to protect is that the champion's overall kit has some severe problems or is just underwhelming. A perfect example of a bandage that came out of nowhere was Lissandra receiving a heal on her ultimate randomly. This was funny to me because a lot of people noticed it and called Riot on it for being so damn random and not addressing her real issues at all. A very recent one is Tam's passive on his ultimate, since it just feels so out of place. The passive flat out gives him damage on everything based on how fat he is, and it's just basically, here, have some free power. The thing is that if you break Tom down into individual parts, you see that, aside from his insanely powerful Devour, his abilities are underwhelming and his ultimate is so unwieldy. To me, it just feels like they gave him his passive to bless him with power because initial testing showed his power levels were pathetic as the game went on. Think about it just for a little bit. Aside from his Devour, and aside from his initial Cunnilingus, he doesn't really do anything, does he? He needs that little bit boost of damage to actually feel like he's achieving anything beyond his Devour. Some champions were more gracefully done like Kindred. They were basically forced to work in the jungle by giving them tons of free power and a kit that emphasizes early game power in order to make them jungle. You can notice this by looking at their kit and taking note of how much free value they gave them, and how many safeguards against total jungle domination they were blessed with. However, this results in them being a time bomb. They're basically super strong early game, and they have the means of snowballing hard. However, as numbers show us, they don't do well as the game goes on. This might present a problem in the future when balancing them will be difficult due to their bandaging. They walk this fine balance because they were given tons of power to clear the jungle exceedingly well, but nerfing their early game could crush their jungle clearing, and buffing them for late game could make their early game more disgusting. Some old champions had this too, like Ryze having cooldown reduction on one of his abilities, Heimerdinger having cooldown reduction on his ultimate, Fiora having flat static AD on hers, although hers isn't as wild since it was attached to steroid abilities anyways. In defense of the older champions though, theirs were more thematic. It felt like it wasn't out of place. It was like this bandage to them was just something they should be included with anyways. Taking that into account, there is a champion everyone seems to dislike that is likely held as one of the biggest bandages in League. Yasuo getting free crit out of the ass is not taken well by this community because it's just flat out free power that was almost seemingly random. His crit is far less effective as a trade-off, but the value is still high in the positives. Anyways, here's a quick list of some bandages on some champions that I'm not really going to go in depth with. Poppy's shield throw giving you a shield. It's just tacking on a lot of defenses. Fiora's ultimate heal, which is just completely out of place and really stupid. Fizz's damage amplification on his ultimate to bolster him when he was weak. Riot making AP items more expensive just to shove the limelight to ranged carries for whatever damn reason. And several abilities that remove minion collision on many champions. I'm not even going to go out and say that I would know better on how to balance these champions or that I'm better than Riot at this. I'm just saying that these bandages are honestly stupid. Juggernauts were by and large bandaged in order to work out properly, and they backfired horrendously. They had inflated stats, high base values, random new effects to their abilities to give them free power, massive conditional power in the form of villainy, Darius rage form, pillar infusion, and having a damn pet dragon. And it was so stupid, and Riot knew this, so the following patches had them toning them down over and over, and now they're kind of just there again, basically where they were before, with some way worse, and one of them being a bit better and more workable than before. The point of this video was just to bring attention to this, and hopefully you can start seeing it yourself when you look at champions, especially any of the new ones being released. Look at reworks and you'll notice that sometimes they have random shit tacked on, or a huge powerful component to an ability for some reason. Personally, I'm just a bit bitter that one of my favorite champions to pick in solo lanes, Mordekaiser, is pretty much never going to come back to his original form. Either way, I hope with this information being pointed out to you that you can clearly see why some champions are nightmares to balance and the true problem with them might lie. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something new today.